This is my favorite shot from The Dark Knight, and I remade it with CGI. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, but Jared, there's nothing cool or special about this shot. Of all moments from the movie, why do this one? For many reasons, my friend. For one, I just like it. And two, actually, that's it. That's the only reason I can think of, and that was good enough for me. But my main goal of this project was just to capture the essence of the original shot, okay? I'm talking the tone, the mood, the atmosphere, the lighting, the cinematography. Here's how I made it. Okay, so we obviously needed a Batman model, and preferably of the same suit that's in the movie. Now, you'd think that this would be easy to do, right? I mean, you just gotta go online, do a quick search, and you should be able to find a free Batman model that you can then bring into Blender. No, what is that? No! Okay, so I actually couldn't find a good Batman model online, but I had another idea. I remembered that there's a Dark Knight skin in the Batman Arkham Knight game, which I happen to already own. So I went back to the internet to see if there's a way to somehow extract this skin from the game and bring it into Blender, and lo and behold, there was. I used a software called Unreal Viewer in order to get the textures and model of the Dark Knight skin into Blender. Once I did that, I went through the process of rigging the model for animation. Now, the model did come with bones already set up, but it was such an overwhelming setup that I decided to just start from scratch. And to make this go faster, I used the Rigify add-on. That way, the bones could already be in about the right place. I just had to make a few minor adjustments here and there. I still had to do the weight painting by hand, and yes, it sucked, but hey, check it out. Now he moves. But hold up, we're still missing an important piece. The cape. So I did what you might expect. I gave the cape cloth physics and parented it to the suit, and I also set the suit to be a collision plane so that the two meshes could actually interact with each other. There was one major problem though, and that is that the mesh was so dense that it essentially made animating impossible. So to fix this, I made a quick set of proxy meshes to be used as the collision objects. So what that means is that I basically make these simple meshes to represent each limb and then parent those individual meshes to their respective bones. So in other words, I don't make the actual suit the collision mesh. Instead, I make these proxy objects and tell those to be the collision mesh, which means less topologies involved, which means a faster viewport, which means my PC hates me a little less. Oh yeah, now we can do this. So there's obviously a lot of buildings in this shot, and it would be quite tedious if I were to make each one from scratch. So that's what I did. No, I'm just kidding. Are you crazy? But here's the thing. We already know that they filmed The Dark Knight in Chicago. So what if we could find the actual location of this shot in Chicago and then just bring it into Blender? Enter Google Earth, which is basically a cooler version of Google Maps because it's in 3D. But wait, if it's 3D, does that mean that there's a way to bring part of that geometry into Blender? Yeah, man, using the Blossom add-on. Now, setting up and using this add-on is kind of a process in and of itself, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it here. If you want to learn more about it, go check out this video by CG Geek. I basically just copied whatever he did in that tutorial. Okay, cool. So now I had a setting to work with, but I didn't like the low resolution of the topology and textures on the Sears Tower, especially since it's a central piece of the shot. So I just deleted the building and rebuilt it from scratch, which was actually a lot easier than you might think. I mean, all you got to do is just build out one window section and then use an array modifier to make the walls taller and wider. From there, you just duplicate the walls and put everything together as if they're puzzle pieces until you have the Sears Tower. Now at this point, the building was cool and all, but it was still looking a little flat. In the original shot, you'll notice that you can see a little bit of the building's interior through the windows. Now it would have been a lot of work to rebuild the actual interiors from scratch, so I just bought this add-on called W Parallax Office. I think that's how you say it. And what's awesome about this add-on is that it applies a parallax map to a single plane of geometry. And this is great because instead of placing even more geometry into my scene, I can just use a single plane for each window, and it gives the illusion of there being a lot more geometry than there actually is. I also saved myself some time by placing parallax maps only on the windows that are visible in the shot, you know, instead of the whole building. And then to give the city more life, I just placed some lights around certain buildings. Basically, you just UV wrap an image of a city onto a cube and tell the dark areas of the image to be transparent while the lightest areas remain visible and emit light. I got the idea for this from a tutorial by Max Hay, but I love it because it's such a quick and easy way to give any building some lights. And just like the parallax maps from a second ago, this really gives the illusion that there's a lot more detail in the scene than there actually is. So there's two main things that need to be animated in this shot. You got Batman and the camera. I'll start with the camera because it's pretty straightforward. All I did was position it according to what's in the original shot, and then I keyframed it throughout the sequence using the original shot as reference. And because the original camera was likely shot on a helicopter, I added some very subtle camera shake to make the scene feel a little more grounded in reality. Once the camera was in place, I just had to pose Batman throughout the sequence according to what happened in the original shot. And because the camera is already aligned, that makes it a lot easier for me to figure out how far to move his arm, turn his head, and so on. Now, one issue with hand animating characters like this is that they can appear very robotic. So what's the rule of thumb for character animation, guys? An object in motion stays in motion, right? You got it. So what does that mean? Well, think of it like this. Even if you were to stand as still as possible, there would still be these very minute jitters and movements happening all across your body, right? That's just how living, moving objects work. So to replicate this, I added a noise modifier to certain limbs on Batman, like his arms and hips, and it gives him this very slight motion. Now, like the camera shake, the trick here is to keep it as subtle as possible. It's a very minor detail, but it goes such a long way in making the animation feel more organic and alive. And that's it. We render, we composite, we add sound effects, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a finished animation. So I did it. I remade my favorite shot from The Dark Knight. And I think I fulfilled my goal of maintaining the essence of the original shot. I mean, it looks cool, it has the same ominous feeling, it's The Dark Knight. Let's post this bad boy to social media and get those likes. Give me that dopamine hit! Please like and subscribe.